Hello, it says I'm live. Anyway, I'd like to explain how I understand um, reality. To simplify, in science, they um, the universe has been around for billions of years, but all energy began before the universe. So that's called intention. There's a reason why everything is as it is. So if we understand that, then we can under comprehend and conclude equations that will explain why. So I'm understanding of the universe. Now, understanding of the universe tells a reason about everything. So in the Bible, it has a lot of um, passages, and everything has a number. Everything's numbered. So those numbers are really important in concluding an equation. Now, if we are a reflection of God, then that means God is everything. God was here before the universe. So if God gave his only son and the universe has a sunshine, then the universe would be whom God, um, being everything, would be God's son. So if God and Jesus came through man, they also came through animal, fish, and they came as everything, right? But how we treat everything is how we're treating God when no one is looking or when everyone is looking. And if Jesus pays for our sins, then it's because everything we do is against and for Jesus, right? So your children, says, are a reflection of your past sin. We're born into the sins of our parents. So, in physics, how do I simplify this? In string theory is a soul. It would be the experience of one's soul. So, if quantum physicists are trying to figure out, um, they don't realize that they're more spiritual than they ever imagined. But if you have a physicist and he's trying to understand particles and where they go and they already have terminology for that. You have a soul, string theory. You have duality, which is the experience of the soul with particles it left behind, energy, intention. So, say when I pass, I, in this life, my son passed away in 2020. Um, and I was told it was September 22nd. The last day I communicated with my son was on September 20th. Now, those numbers become an equation. If I look them up in the Bible, if I look them up in historical events, if I look all of these numbers up, and there are so many historical references, then I'm able to find out who my son was in his past life, which I did. Quite a few of his past lives. And then I can predict what will happen to him in his new life. See, when we're born, our experience of birth is a reflection of how we passed away. And every time someone passes away, they're being reborn. Now, in physics, they say energy cannot be destroyed, it takes new form. Okay, that's energy becoming matter. Now, say in my past life, I know who I was past lives. So I'm able to do the math. But finding who you were in your past life, that you have to use physics. And once you use physics to understand, then you have the what people would call a template, but I call it intention. You would have the logic of why everything occurred. You'd be able to find out who contributed to your passing, why you were aligned for that passing. And because I know who lots of people were in their past lives, I have so many different ways to conclude a theory. So many, in fact, that in 2018, I wrote Stephen Hawking in February of 2018. February of 2005 is when I submitted the offer on my house that I had and purchased the house. And I was in the house, and on March 1st, 2005, and my firstborn son's father passed away on March 1st. Now, everything is, to simplify, alignment. There is of intention. So every single thing you do, say, speak, it's like you put it all into this computer of your soul, right? That's how computers came to be, and that's how coding, all of that stuff is telling you what's going on with the universe, everything. So some people call me a psychic, and I've been paid to be a psychic, but I don't use anyone. A painting that, like, this began as a painting that someone else painted that I bought at a furniture store. And then I painted over their painting, which created a shift in the artist's reality. Now, these were mass produced. Someone painted an original, and then they hired people to paint more of the same painting. So, in knowing this, the actual artist that painted it did not get paid what the original artist got paid. So, the actual artist, by me painting over it and realigning a different reality, I know that their life is experiencing a different reality, a shift in reality. This is a painting that I did over another painting. I painted over, I believe it was a violin and a stamp, if I remember correctly. So these things tell me something. Now, my son past life was a famous scientist. And this famous scientist had stuck his tongue out in regards to something about stamps. And he also played the violin. And this painting I did was in remembrance of my son. Now, it also tells me things about my son's present life. And it also tells me things about every single thing, every color I choose, everything that's in front of me. Now, I'm holding pink with patterns. And And I also have fur on my pillow. So then I know I recently had a mammogram and something came up on the left side. So based on how I'm holding this pillow and the colorations of it, it tells me things, right? So if I look, everything you buy, everything you have, it's telling you what's occurring in your life. Like I can look at someone's social media and spend just a little bit of time and just tell them a little bit of information that I got from their social media that has nothing to do with their social media. I know health issues in the family. I know if sometimes, if I'm paying attention, I will know that someone passed, who it was, the kind of relationship they had. I know a lot. And so every single thing that is spoken globally is a reoccurrence of our energy. So, intention, why? Like people give people flowers, but it's why do you give them flowers? People do things that, like, I was given a lot of flowers, and then afterwards, I cut my hair. And it's because of my thought process and my how I perceive flowers. I would rather um, experience a flower in its natural state of wanting to be. So if a flower wants to be a human, then I would want to be actively aware that things do not exist for me. Things exist for who they themselves want to be. I don't go around thinking that I own all energy and that all energy caters to me. I and so in being so, I also don't respond to energy that thinks that I owe that energy anything more than that would do for me. Say I'm going to eat meat, right? I consciously am aware that when I am meat myself, and I will be, that I want it to be a peaceful experience. So I was recently working um, in an office where I was in charge of making sure it stayed clean, preparing meals, um, organization, aesthetics. Now, each one of those jobs, if I cleaned someone's house, I would charge $30 to $40 an hour. If I were to cook meals for someone, I would charge more to cook meals. If I was to organize and shop for someone, I would charge at least $40 an hour. But this person offered me a job at, I said $25 an hour because I knew they would not hire me at $40 an hour. And it would be for 40 hours a week. But once I did everything I needed to do, once I did everything I needed to do, I already knew that they would want to scale back my hours because I was so efficient at the things I knew how to do. But I made it clear that I wanted to make at least $1,000 a week. So I quit my job. And the thing is it was a really easy job for someone like me. But it was only easy because I had already done all of those things, and I made more money with many people working much, much harder, but I made more money. But the only reason it was not the job for me is because spiritually there was so much work for me to do there, and it wasn't worth it. If they didn't think I was worthy of earning what I deserved to be paid, then why on earth would I spend time away from my furry family, my grandchildren, my daughter? I could help my daughter for less, but I feel that I'm contributing more. Now, when people try to take advantage of you, it can come from any direction. It can come from everywhere. But then that tells you you're also taking advantage of something. So for me, understanding spirituality, physics, quantum mechanics, I understand so much. It's not because I went to college to study quantum physics or because I didn't. And it's not because I joined some group and paid to listen to a spiritual advisor, because I didn't and I wouldn't. Um, and so I can't expect that of you for me. But if I want world peace, and there is a very complex occurrence that will manifest through wanting such, then the logic is explain to people so people don't stress out and so people don't get so anxious. So how am I going to explain this? Money. Money, they say, is the root of all evil, and that's not true. Now, I'm going to explain. Those that have abundance and that speak of those that don't, that is the evil. But they don't know that because they think they've been blessed in this life. Now, what you might call a blessing, I call alignment. It's showing you where you're going. So say you are a doctor and you're like, hey, I'm fixing things, I'm taking care of people. But we're all born into the sins of our parents, which means we did things to experience our physical reality. So each life, if you're Catholic this life, you won't be Catholic your next life. I don't care if you were baptized or not, you won't be. If you were Jewish this life, you won't be Jewish your next life. If you're Black this life, you will not be Black your next life. If you're white this life, you will not be white your next life. You'll be mixed. My past life, and it's the same with any nationality. My past life, my mother was born in Mexico. I was not. I was born in Los Angeles. My past life, my mother and I did not live in the same home my whole childhood. I lived in a foster home until I was 16 and got married. This life, I would move out of my mother's home and go live with my aunt, and which was her best friend, and she wasn't my biological aunt. And that is how evolution works. Um, right down to the streets I lived on. My past life, I lived on a street that I also lived on in this life. And at the age of 16, I lived. And then my son, when we moved, he was 16. And then we moved into this place and he was 17. And then before we moved, he turned 18. So these things, these energies, they the numerical sequence is with you in every life. That's what Stephen Hawking was working on. Stephen Hawking was working on how to explain all of reality. And they built this massive computer, and they started utilizing this computer in 2008. Now, they said there is a series of numbers that the universe revolves around. And so I had become quite aware once they started using this machine, and my life kind of sped up. Everything was just chaos. And, but in 2018, I gave Mr. Hawking this series of numbers. And this series of numbers was quite simple. It was my birthday, my kids' birth dates, and my social security number. Less than 2 weeks later, he was able to conclude his final theory with he had proof. So he had been looking for me, but because he had been looking for me, I was able to find him, because he would have never found me because his passing was approaching. And so I was able to find him. And then 2 weeks later, he passed away on Albert Einstein's birthday. Now, my son that passed away was Albert Einstein in his past life. And in one of my lives, my past life most recent, I was Marilyn Monroe. So knowing that I was Marilyn Monroe, I had access to so much information and so much math that I was able to conclude the equation. And then I sent it to another scientist. And he has all of the information that I cared to send to him. And I sent that information to several other scientists, just parts of it, so no one would be tempted to plagiarize. Because if you plagiarize, it comes back to you. You'll end up, whatever someone would be punished for taking something that isn't theirs, in this life or your next life, you would pay for that crime. That's why you see a lot of random shootings, you see a lot of random crime, because people are paying for what they did in their past lives and they got away with it. Now, anybody, anytime you kill anything, if I kill a bug or anything, I will pay for that in another life. And so these are the realities that are energy taking new form. And every word, every letter in that word is a particle. And so when you say your name is past particle. It's your name, all those letters, you put them in a computer, they can mean many, many things. So what happens is your name tells a story. And if you know that game they have where you make as many words as you can out of one word. But in the universe, it's also every language, every math equation, every color, every pattern, every occurrence that has ever happened in the universe. Whatever your name concludes, you're part of all of that most recent and future. So I'm able to understand this, but trying to learn how to explain it has been me studying physics, quantum physics, biology, chemistry, um, where things originate, who invented, what their reality was, all of it. Like Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson, in his past life, before he became Michael Jackson, he was a pharmacist and a scientist, and he invented Dr. Pepper, and he was from Waco, Texas. Now, if you have a Southern accent, you're going to say Waco differently. If you have an English accent, everyone has a different accent or a different way of speaking. So Waco, Texas, and then Michael Jackson was given an unkind name. But Michael was the king of pop, and Dr. Pepper was also called the king of soda pop. Caffeinated beverages contribute to the inability to sleep. And it also makes you move, and it keeps children moving and awake. But also, processed sugar is one of the number one contributing factors to health related issues. So then Michael would end up experiencing things in relation to sodas, which was Pepsi, and he would end up experiencing the inability to sleep without a chemical to help him sleep. This is how this occurs. This is how these things manifest. Any pharmacist that manifests a drug, they will come back to experience all the different possibilities of that drug. So anyone that sells pharmaceuticals reputably will sell pharmaceuticals in another way, and they will experience them. Anything we contribute to someone else's health, we experience the physiological experience and the psychological. This is where emotional health comes in. And that's what duality is. You're experiencing the past as it is occurring in the present. So if you are someone and you taught your family to do something that was unkind or whatever, you would experience what you taught them. If you taught your children to hunt, you would in a lifetime be hunted by the person you taught to hunt. And those that you hunted would seek to hunt you. It's simple. The universe, I've given this information to quite a few scientists, and since doing so, they have concluded that the universe is far more spiritual than they imagined. And they did say that it was much darker than they understood. Now, it depends. Like, if a guy sitting there eating a steak and doesn't realize that he too will be a steak, he's going to have a different experience of consuming someone's existence. So this is where all of these different energies come into play. What you eat is the experience of your soul. So if you eat things that have suffered greatly before you consume them, then you'll experience energies like theirs, and you'll experience moments of sadness or fear, anxiety. The universe will align you to know what they too experience. And that's the part they were talking about where it's dark. So it's really complex math, and I'm learning how to understand the math that is already there. I don't need to try to invent some new math. I don't need to, which I did in a past life. I invented calculus. So this life, I would try to explain things so everyone could understand. And that's what I'm trying to do, is find different ways. Every time someone asks a question, it's easier for me to give an individual answer because I'm communicating with their energy and where they are in wanting to understand. And you don't want to give everybody information that they don't understand, because some people may not understand it, but they think if other people do, then they'll try to manipulate it and use it against people, which is where we stand with politics and policies and laws. In a courtroom, the first thing the judge will, they say, you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. They put a Bible in there sometimes, and in the Bible it says not to sue anyone. So then you have hypocrisy already, right? If you have a Bible in a courtroom and it says do not sue one another, then you already are experiencing a lie. So whatever the crime is that the person is sentenced for, it's a personal interest of the judge. And it tells me if a judge is lying, if a judge is hiding something, based on the outcome of the trial. It tells me what will happen to the lawyers. It tells me what will happen to everybody. And just so you know, everyone that sits before a judge was a judge. And everyone that is incarcerated has been a lawyer, a judge, a leader, someone, war hero. They've been someone that did not pay, or they sentenced. You got to remember, we've been here billions of years. That means a lot of lifetimes, a lot. So we are manifesting into a realization of humans being extinct. But we will return as a different kind of realization. So the irony to mankind is that you are the children of the future. So, when you prose things like, if this person was alive and they were a baby, would you take their life? And then say Hitler was reborn as a baby and someone took his life, and then you're sitting there going, that man that took his life should be punished because you don't know that was Hitler and you were jokingly talking about it. Don't talk that way about past or present energy, especially when you don't understand how disrespectful it is to judge another soul when you yourself do not know the crimes you've committed or will commit in your future lives. Just like me. I don't know what I'll do. I do know that I'll be the president, and I'll be the first president in the history that ever accomplishes everything I set out to accomplish. And I will create changes in the world, in unity and kindness. So these things I already know. But in this lifetime, I'm just a grandma. I'm a mom. I'm someone that likes to paint. But I do know that just like when I was someone else that liked to paint, I don't paint. So I was also a very famous artist. And so I don't paint. Well, actually, I was two very famous artists. So when I paint, the paintings that I paint, the things I speak when I paint, they come true. They come true. And so I just know things. And but anyway, every single thought you have, whatever you watch on TV, whatever you see at the movies, whatever music you listen to, whatever you think of the people that you see in the news, all of that is a prediction of your own reality, your own. So my unsolicited advice is do your best to not judge and do your best to understand your own soul, your soul, just like I try to understand my soul. I try to experience peacefulness. Sorry, I have clips, and so having a clip behind me can represent many things. A clip is something with weapons, right? A clip, hair clip, all of these different uses of the word clip. This clip is made out of a metal, and so these things tell you things. They tell me what's to come, what's going on behind me. And it tells me what'll be in the news. Everything I've spoken, if you took all the words and you put it on a piece of paper and you typed in all of those words, and a complete sentence would appear that would explain what would happen to me. And it would also, if you took those words and put them in a different context, it would predict what would happen to you. We are aligned to hear and see, feel, touch, experience everything. In every lifetime, it's from a different perspective. So anyway, that's all I got. 39 minutes, 40 minutes, less than 40 minutes. I explained how it works. Now it's up to you, if you really want to learn, to try to explain to yourself how you work and understand yourselves.